It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Did you hear that? That loud pop about 5:45 yesterday, Thursday afternoon. That was the Arkansas Razorbacks basketball hopes, NCAA tournament bubble hopes going. We didn't even practice that.
Yeah. Arkansas
Craps the bed in a huge way against South Carolina, loses the game that there is absolutely no way they should have lost. Now 21-11, they're going to be, hey, on the bright side, well, they could be at 1 in the NIT.
Yeah. They better be a number 1 seed. They might even be the number 1 overall seed if some things break their way. Look, if you're an Arkansas fan, I know there were some fans that went down to Atlanta, hoping to get tickets for the first session, maybe hopefully buy some more and stay there all the way through Sundays. Well, you're probably heading back today. On your way back from Atlanta, you'll probably see somebody on the road. Yeah, that's probably Tony Barbee, the former Auburn coach. I'm sure he had to walk home because he was fired less than 2 hours after their loss to South Carolina. I mean,
he got kiffined.
He got railed. I mean, look, maybe there's a reason that you can think, and we're going to talk about Arkansas, but I just have to get this off my chest and express my concern. Is there anything you gain by firing the guy right after the game? I mean, it's late at night or it's at night. You got in the morning, you're out. You're going to fire him. They just I don't even know if he got to ride home with the team.
He didn't.
The
story that I heard, now this is obviously second, third, fourth hand somewhere like that, but I heard it on national radio that he was after the game, they allowed him to talk to his players, and then as the players were about to get on the bus, they handed him a key to a rental car. See ya. Don't even let him ride the bus home. There are some players from Arkansas who, a lot of folks would have wished they would have walked home from the SEC tournament yesterday. I'm getting sick. I don't know if you're like me, but I'm getting sick of hearing this wonderful talk after a loss. This grown-up, mature talk from guys like, yeah, we got to get tougher. Well, if you're mature enough to talk it, well, why don't you go get on the floor and get a rebound? You get out-rebounded by 16 rebounds in the game. Mm-hmm. The game, honestly, because Arkansas shot a higher percentage. They were only 3 for 14 from 3, and South Carolina made 5 of them, but they shot a higher percentage. You get out-rebounded by 16. You give up 15 offensive rebounds to a team. That's just want to. That's just box out guts. Give up rebounds. Arkansas up 3. South Carolina misses a free throw. Actually, they were down, or they were up 2 at that point because the guy made the first free throw. Missed the second free throw. They tip it out to them. They get another possession. They tie it. So instead of having the ball up 2, the game's tied. And it's just stuff like that happened all year long.
Yeah.
To where they're growing. They're taking the next step. We talked about this on Wednesday. The fire underneath Mike Anderson's seat next year. NCAA tournament or bust, it's not even a question now.
Oh, yeah, and I've been saying that all year long. If you don't make the tournament in year 3, if you're Mike Anderson, you're coming in to year 4 under the huge hot seat. I mean, I understand that you got recruits out there for next year and a couple of years down the road. A lot of great in-state talent as far as keeping the coach and maybe bringing those guys in, but you can't go a 4th straight year and not make the NCAA tournament. And look, in ways, I think this team maximize what they could do. Now, I understand there's some situations, I know you're going to point that out, some situations in which they could have handled better from a strategic standpoint. I completely agree with that. But I'm speaking in terms of really what they were. First of all, and I want to make sure I'm clear on this when I say what I'm about to say, because I'm not attacking their mental ability as human beings. I'm talking strictly basketball. But the IQ of this team is significantly low. When you look at some of the silly fouls committed, when you look at some of the turnovers, you can't win basketball games when you're doing some of those things mentally and from a basketball IQ standpoint. And so I've said this before, Arkansas, they were a hot team. They were making shots. They were playing with confidence. But you're not always going to make shots. And Arkansas is a below-average team when they're not making shots. And so I enjoyed the winning streak. People ask me, are they turning the corner or are they hot? And I said, I got to lean more towards them being hot because the same flaws are still there. The ball handling, the rebound, the mental mistakes are still there, even though they're hitting shots and winning. And I think you saw that, Mark. You pointed out the stat, 3 for 14 from three with those other problems I just named. Hard to win.
And, I would have said, 3 for 14, that's not it's 21%. That's awful shooting percentage. But you look at that 14, you may think that they fell in love with the three when they got hot a couple weeks ago and they went on this tear. They hit 17 threes in the Ole Miss game. They hit 9 the next game against Alabama when they got blown out. So they do all this great shooting. You'd think maybe they fell in love with the three. Looking at the percentages yesterday, though, Cody Clark 1 of 3, Qualls 1 of 3, Madden and Gully both 0 for 2, Antoine Bell 1 for 2, and Mardrakus Wade and Ricky Scott both 0 for 1. Nobody just shot the heck out of the three. Just shot 7 or 8 of them, made one or none. They were shooting shots that they thought were good shots. They just weren't going in. So I don't want to say that they necessarily fell in love with. They're not very good shooting. It's just there's no other real excuse to be made for it. So when that happens, you've got to go and make plays. Get the 50-50 ball. Go dive on the floor for that loose ball, box out and get that extra rebound. And it just didn't happen that way. For Arkansas, I was frustrated with the amount of free throws. 41 free throws South Carolina shot, and there were a bunch of them where Arkansas would have a guy trapped, and they would pull the old Tim Duncan. They would flail into you and let the ball go, and then they get a foul call. And the whole second half of the game, it seemed like that South Carolina was shooting the bonus, and it was kind of ridiculous to me that they were shooting so many free throws. That's 67 free throws shot in the game. You don't want to see that many. You definitely don't want to see a team shoot 41 free throws.
No, not at all. And I'm looking at this team, and this level of skill, it has to come into play. Look, the kids play with a lot of effort. I think they tried hard in a lot of situations, but there's very few things that make up for skill, especially when you don't run a lot of offensive sets. You have to have a degree of skills. Who on this Razorback team can put the ball on the floor and finish? Not put the ball on the floor and throw something at the backboard. I'm talking about legitimately finish. Who is somebody who has the wherewithal, the overall basketball game to be able to pull up and hit a mid-range? We're not talking about being a supreme NBA-type player. I'm talking about like Gonzaga. How many NBA players are they pumping into the league year after year? Not many, but you know what? Gonzaga, year after year, they're incredibly skilled. They know how to pass. They know situations. They know where to be. They know how to be. And that's why Gonzaga's a consistent basketball program. And so I understand with the system that Arkansas plays, they need athleticism. I'm not denying that. But you also need a basketball IQ. You look at the mid-'90s. We like to talk about that all the time. Corliss Williamson, Clint McDaniel, Corey Beck, Scotty Thurman, that whole group, Dwight Stewart. Basketball sharp. Yeah, they were talented. Yeah, they could run and shoot, but they were a very good team mentally, very intelligent basketball players.
And that may be a problem, man. I don't know if you're like me and you felt the balloon pop when Bobby Portis missed that 3-footer. He just turns around with a guard on him. He didn't realize he had a guard on him, or he just turned and dunked it. But he turns around with the guard, in his back, and turns around and misses a hook. That sucks. Just a couple seconds left in the game, have a chance to take the lead right there. They were down 1. That would have given them the lead. And then South Carolina's got to make something happen at the end. Final time for this year that I'm going to do what I'm about to do. I talked earlier on about just not liking the way play calls went and the way, situations were handled. And I had another one last night. I don't think anybody else that I've seen has had the same issue that I did. So if you disagree, that's fine. 968 News is the number. Give us a holler and let us know what you think. 968-6397. But I had a little bit of an issue with the way the late game situation was handled. You had 2.9 seconds, and South Carolina shooting 2 free throws. You have 1 timeout. South Carolina has 1 timeout. South Carolina misses the first free throw, so they're up 1, and they call timeout. So South Carolina calls timeout. You get to go talk to your players. In my opinion, and you know how it worked out, South Carolina missed the first one, made the second one. Arkansas calls timeout, then sets up the play that Kai Madden gets the heave from half court at the buzzer, almost went in, didn't go in, Arkansas loses. In my opinion, and this is the way the NBA does it. Now, the NBA, when they call timeout, they can choose to advance the ball to half court. I think with 2.9 seconds left, you've got to get the ball to half court and then call timeout so that you can set up a play that's a lot more high percentage with a second and a half left, because really about 0.7 is all you need to throw a ball into somebody, catch, set up, shoot a good high percentage shot from about the 3-point line or maybe a little bit further instead of a heave from half court. I would have loved to have seen when South Carolina calls that timeout, and I know this is all, hindsight's 2020, but it just speaks to the issues that I have with the way some things are handled. When South Carolina calls that timeout, what did you do in that timeout? You just said, okay, well, you guys sit there and take a break. We're going to see if he makes this second one. Then we're going to call timeout ourselves. I don't understand. What were they going to do if he missed it? Anything different? No, apparently not. They were just going to call timeout. So I would have loved to have seen them get the ball to half court and then call timeout. Whether he missed the free throw and you've got to turn and dribble it to half court, call timeout, you got a half second or whatever left, maybe a little bit more. Or if he makes it and you get the ball in and you get it to half court with some sort of set play just to call timeout, and then, because then you have a higher percentage shot. I didn't like the way that last possession was handled because it just seemed like there was no coaching that went into, here, let's just roll the ball to Kai and let him throw one up from half court. Now you have 2 timeouts to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's situational basketball, and I was telling you in the pre-show, you have to be prepared for all possible situations when you're in a timeout. You don't just go over the upcoming possession. You go over the different contingencies and what may happen on a make or a miss or what have you. And you have to be prepared. First option, I agree with you, be able to get the ball inbound and call a quick timeout. Now, is that a little risk to it? Sure. But that's why you have to be prepared for the other part of it as well. If we can't get the ball in, let's get something to where we can get a better shot. I still think even if you didn't inbound the ball to half court and call a timeout, you still could have came up with something that would have gotten you a better look, screen for somebody who's streaking down, just whatever it may be. But I think I agree with you. It didn't look like that situation was something they were just really prepared for. And I understand the questioning.
All right, we got a caller on the line. It's Mr. Old School Baller. How you doing today?
Oh, just kind of feeling a little disappointed. Not really surprised, but kind of disappointed. Like I told you the other day, I'm the eternal pessimist, and I didn't think we had much of a shot, but I'm disappointed in the way we played. Disappointed in how we were coached. I think I think he puts way too much emphasis on turnovers and not enough offensive rebounding or blocking out or whatever. I just don't. And I'm like you, man. I think right there at the end, I think we were very deficient on coaching as far as getting a good shot off. I don't know. I like the guy. I think he's a great guy with good character. I think he teaches good moral standards, but I just don't know what kind of a motivator he is. All season long, I don't think we've got much better, and I don't think our players have improved that much. I don't know. I'm not pointing my finger at anybody. I think we are deficient on talent and deficient on coaching as well. But I want to get what y'all boys think about how the season went. Have we regressed or have we improved? Looks like it's the NIT, and to be perfectly blunt, I'm not too enthusiastic about that either.
Me either.
Also, one more thing. Have y'all ever considered? I know the newspaper media has a Player of the Year, basketball, boys and girls. Have y'all ever put much stock into discussing that or even having some competition in that area?
I'm glad you asked that question, Old School Baller. We're doing a banquet May 29th. We're giving Players of the Year in every single sport.
Oh, you are?
Yep, well, you ought to come. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have basketball, football, Players of the Year, all the way down to cross-country, track, swimming, all that. So all these players who never get any love anywhere else, they're going to be able to come in and on the same playing field, on the same stage, be awarded with Player of the Year, honors, Coach of the Year, and those types of things. So we're looking forward to that event on May 29th.
That's awesome.
I think it is, too.
I don't get to listen a lot, but I haven't heard y'all mention Jay Trusty from Danville. Have you talked about him any at all?
Well, I know he's very good, and I can almost guarantee you, I talked to their athletic director the other day. I can almost guarantee you he's going to be nominated and probably going to be at least in the discussion for the finalists for Basketball Player of the Year. He's a talented Danville guard, sophomore who's just putting up incredible numbers. Somebody was telling me he averaged nearly 30 this year. I know it's over 20 that he averaged per game there for Danville and the Little Johns. And we actually have video we played of him earlier on Old School Baller where he hit a buzzer beater to win a game, and it was just it was an awesome YouTube video that somebody sent us. Yeah, he's a pretty good kid. I know his grandparents, but you know what I would like to say about him, whether you realize it or not, he's got the possibility of making All-State in 3 sports. Wow.
He's an really good golfer, really good baseball player, and an excellent basketball player. And I think he's going to set all kinds of scoring records for maybe that class. I know Danville as well in basketball, but, just thinking about a kid that's got a pretty good possibility of making All-State in 3 sports is an athlete. Yeah, well, that's awesome to hear. You got anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Old School Baller? No, that's all. I'll get off of here and let you boys go. I sure enjoy your show. We appreciate it. We're going to talk a little Hog basketball right now. Look, I do think they came to another level this year. They're 21-11, doesn't look all that great. 10-8 in the conference, second year in a row that they're above 500 in the conference. Of course, that's not saying too much because the SEC's been pretty terrible this year. And you get 18 games, to play against more crappy teams. Then you lose your last SEC tournament game against South Carolina. Haven't won an SEC tournament game since Stephen Hill in 2008. I'm as frustrated as Old School Baller about some of the different stuff. Talent deficiency or not, man, you play 12 guys. They're talking about needing to be tougher and needing to play with more effort. If you play 12 guys, you should never be so tired that you can't go after a loose ball, that you can't box out and get a rebound. That stuff just drives me up a wall. And, it's crazy for me who, when I was a player, I wasn't that kind of guy. I was one of the just go stand in the corner, shoot a 3, and then come sit down. I wasn't the scrappy, tough guy. But, I'm kind of hypocritical when it comes to my sports. Like, I want people to be the exact opposite of how I was. So I know anybody who knows me is thinking, what a hypocrite saying all this stuff. But when I watch the Hogs, man, I think scrappy, tough, heady, make the play when it needs to be made. And maybe it is a lack of talent. And maybe next year you're going to see guys like Anton Beard, who just won a state championship last night, 89-81 in the 7A boys. North Little Rock beat Springdale. Great game. Maybe he comes in and he makes all the difference in the world. We've always, since 95, 96, been talking about needing a point guard who is like a Corey Beck to come in. And if he's the guy, he's the guy. Wonderful. I'd love to have something that can be the steadying force on this team. I'm with Old School Baller, though. I'm kind of disappointed. I was hoping for an NCAA tournament. After watching the way that the last 10 games went, the way the Alabama and South Carolina games went, it's kind of disappointing. Yeah, I mean, disappointing into the season. I always look at things from a cost-benefit standpoint. And I think the timing of Mike Anderson being here gives him a little more leeway because of what happened before him. If Mike Anderson were hired immediately after Nolan Richardson, where the program, obviously they were down at the end of Coach Richardson's tenure, but they weren't far removed from being pretty good, pretty competitive. And if Mike Anderson had taken over and posted what he's posted the last 3 years immediately after Coach Richardson, I think the seat would be even hotter. He may even be out after this year. But understand you have roughly a decade of average at best basketball. So then you have to ask yourself, wow, we haven't been relevant in a decade. We fired 2 coaches between Coach Anderson and Coach Richardson. Coach Anderson's leaving a little bit on the table to be desired, but we keep running through coaches. We're going to have to settle in on this guy. Now, the talent issue is a problem, but I will say this. That does come back to the head coach in terms of talent. So, for me, I look at this basketball team and we talk about, well, they don't rebound well enough. They're not, they don't grind on people. Arkansas had a coach that rebounded and grinded. His name was Stan Heath, and nobody was happy. Why? Because he didn't run enough. You have a coach who runs but doesn't rebound. Now we want to rebound again. So I understand that you want to be able to do a lot of different things, but just be careful for what you wish for. I think the philosophy is fine. I think some of the coaching finer points of the players need to get better. That's it. They just got to get
tougher and better all around. Because if they, if you got guys like Cody Clark, who I like, who can get a rebound, or Bobby Qualls, good Lord, I keep doing that.
Baller
Bobby
right there.
Portis. I've got a friend who we call Bobby Qualls, and
You call him? So that's not his name.
No, his name's Justin, and we call him Bobby. I don't know why. It's just something we started doing in high school. Anyway, Bobby Portis, 6'10". Does he ever get a rebound? I don't know.
No.
So, you just got to want it more. You got to get tougher. I knew he couldn't handle not calling. So Jason's on the line right now. He wants to talk a little bit about the Hogs, I'm sure.
Man, I'm just frustrated too. For a team that's only won 5 conference games, South Carolina only won 5 conference games, and for them to play I wouldn't say they played good. I wouldn't say Arkansas played good. I think both of the teams didn't play very well at all. But I'm just frustrated about the way the season ends. And we were talking earlier about that. Why didn't they call a timeout? Try to get it to half court and timeout. Well, why didn't, when Madden got the ball, he was actually going towards their goal. He should have caught that and should have been going in a motion towards, Arkansas's basket. I think that has to do with coaching. I think I've said it plenty of times that I'm really not a Mike Anderson fan, and I think, when it comes down to X's and O's, I think he hurts Arkansas, and I think he did yesterday. And another example was, when we had the ball, I think there was probably 20-something seconds to go in the game, and, we ran a high pick and roll. That's the only play he runs at the end of the game. I don't understand why he doesn't call an actual set play of, maybe try to have Bell coming off of a screen, and if he's not open, look for, screen the screener. I mean, everybody knows that's a good play. You screen the guy and he pops out or something, It's just frustrating watching him when I think that I'm just not sold on him being of course he's not an X and O's guy, but I think that hurts Arkansas at the end of the game more than anything.
Yeah, it doesn't help, that's for sure, not having a play that could be used in that situation. And the Kai Madden thing, that's, part of that has to do with, just basketball sense as a player. Maybe you have a coach in the huddle who will say, all right, make sure that you catch that with your momentum going toward our basket. But you wouldn't have to tell me that. Even
Right.
as an 18-year-old kid, you wouldn't have to tell me to go make sure that, at 3.9 seconds, you want to get as close to the basket as you can. Or maybe make a pass. Kai Madden gets it, dribbles up, there's no pass. He just shoots it. Maybe you set up something to where somebody else is over there at the three-point line. There's a shot. I think a lot of it is basketball IQ and I don't fault Kai Madden necessarily for his effort. The basketball IQ leaves something to be desired.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I think, guys, when you look at what Arkansas has right now, I think their deficiencies as individuals magnify some of the issues, because a good Arkansas team, an Arkansas team with good players, high IQs, and talent, first of all, it's not even a late-game shot situation against South Carolina. The game's over by 15. And when you look at, back in the days of Coach Richardson, a lot of times against inferior opponents, that's what it was. Against the South Carolina, there was no need to draw a play and get a guy screened off here or there. Coach Anderson's top teams at Missouri. I mean, it's not like Coach Anderson's doing anything different than what he's done at Missouri. It's just that he doesn't have the players, and so now there's more of a magnifying glass on his coaching. Now, if you want to say there's a concern when Arkansas gets really good in 2 or 3 years and they're in the Final Four against Duke and they have to draw up a play and it costs them, then I get you. But as far as right now, I think what we're talking about now is a result of Arkansas being in these situations because they're not very good. And that's what I'm looking at.
To your point, Weldon and Jason, I'll see what you think about this. Mike Anderson can't put the ball in the basket for Bobby Portis on the turnaround 2-footer that would have given him the lead. He gets him the ball in the post in a position to score against a guard. That's a good matchup for Arkansas, and Mike Anderson's got to get some credit for that. He can't put the ball in the basket for these guys. So as rough as it is, Arkansas still had a chance to win. Shouldn't have even come down to that. I agree with you, Weldon and Jason, but it's a tough loss, tough way. And we're talking about the season being over. What if they made a run through the NIT and won the whole thing? Nobody would be just stoked about it, but they would, the taste wouldn't be so bad in everyone's mouth. Jason?
I agree. I think Weldon hit it on the head earlier, and which I've just been discussing, is the basketball IQ on the team is unbelievable low for a major college program. It's just like you're saying, Madden should have known to have been going up court and stuff. But another thing that's frustrating to me is Arkansas was making a run there early in the second half, and it got up probably maybe 5 or 6 points or something like that. And then he starts subbing. And, that's another thing that frustrates me because sometimes I look out on the court and be like, who is going to score?
Yeah.
I don't understand that either because he had like Ja'Cory Williams, who I can't stand. He had, who else did he have? He had Gurley was in, Harris, who Harris is really disappointed this year. I thought he would really be a big factor, and I think, I thought he would be a starter or the first guy off the bench and really contribute a lot this year. He's really been disappointing, but, sometimes I don't understand his substitution pattern. Like I said, he was making a run. Why don't you keep those players in there and wait till they get either exhausted or tired or, raise their hand and want to come out or something instead of just keep on substituting. That's another thing that just frustrates me.
Yeah, no, it's frustrating to me too. It's some of the players that get playing time to me. It's a little crazy. But Ja'Cory Williams, in fairness to Anderson, Kiko, and Ricky Scott only got 4 minutes apiece. But it was the time the time that Ja'Cory Williams came in. Maddie was making fun of him because he came in, got under the basket, and threw it off the bottom of the rim.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck are you doing,
that's
man?
That's a signature move.
That's his thing. There are some times when people shoot the ball, and I'm just like, why would you ever do that? So, yeah, man, we could sit here all day and talk about the frustrating stuff. There's some good stuff, too. There are moments when you get to see the team get to running and you think hog ball is back. So at least it's fun to watch. At least this way there's some up and down and back and forth. And, in Stan Heath's last years, even though they were going to the tournament, it was just like, this is like watching paint dry.
There was no upside.
It was horrible. Yeah, there was no – you weren't winning the national championship and you weren't fun to watch. So it was just like, I'd like to be one of the two and like at least have a shot at going further. Yeah, at least this team is fun to watch. They care about it. Lots of Arkansas guys. And next year, the Arkansas Cubs mantra, like I mentioned yesterday on Twitter, there's always next year.
Yeah, and I just want to say this real quick to Jason's point about the substitutions and the players, because I think if I had a knock against Coach Anderson this year, and a lot of things you can get on him about, the feel for the players and the feel for the game. Knowing when a hand is hot and you need to ride him even though it may go against your substitution pattern, and knowing when somebody is checked out. Michael Qualls got that steal early, but for the most part, Michael Qualls was checked out. You could tell by how he was jogging on and off the floor. You could tell about how he would react on defense to loose balls. And those are little things as a coach you got to pick up on. You call timeout, you jerk a knot in him, and you sit him down for a minute. Then if he's ready, you bring him back in. But you don't see those things unless you're really dialed in, you have a feel.
Man, we got to hit a break. We've already skipped one. We're up against our second break here. It's going to be an extended one, but we'll come back and have the second half of the Sports Blitz right after this break.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KARK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
We talked before the break about Jabril Durham, 6'1" guard from Seminole State. He is committed to play point guard for the Arkansas Razorbacks. That's good news on the heels of some bad news. Anton Beard was the MVP of the 7A Boys State Championship game, 28 points. Actually, no, I'm sorry, that was 28 points in the semifinals. How many did he have last night?
I know he had 12
29.
field goals. Yeah, so okay, that's
had
about
29
right.
points last night. He was a guy who everybody has said just does not faze him. The big stage and the important game, it doesn't faze him at all. I can't wait for a guy like that to get to the hill, and maybe this Jabril Durham guy can either push him and help, or he can at least fill in some time when Anton, and then we can push Kai Madden to the 2, and all will be well in Razorback land if we can have him not dribbling the basketball anymore.
Yes.
All right, Jason's with us for just one more moment. He's going to talk a little bit about spring football. What's on your mind with spring football?
Man, it starts Sunday, so I'm really excited about that. I'm anxious to see what Bielema can do to this team in his second year here. I think, his first year here, it was really just changing from a pass-happy offense to more of a smash-mouth type of team, that style that he brings to the table. And I think I'm really excited. I think the offensive line is going to be great, for years to come. Him and Sam Pittman are just unbelievable at getting offensive linemen to produce at a high level. And, of course, everybody's going to be looking at the quarterback situation. Is Brandon Allen going to be able to hold on, or is PV going to take over? I think that's going to be very intriguing there. And I think Quarles Marshall standing at running back, I think that's huge too. Of course, I would have loved to have seen him at safety because I think he could be a heck of a safety. Maybe a Steve Atwater or a Camille Kennedy or some type like that. I think he has a potential, just unbelievable high potential in him. But so I'm just curious of what some of y'all's biggest, maybe what are y'all going to be looking at the most when spring practice starts? I think the secondary, we've got to look at that, and also the linebackers. If we can get some linebackers to stay healthy, I think with Spate, Brooks Ellis, Otha Peters, and Brandon Mitchell coming back, or Braylon Mitchell, I mean, I think they all have potential to be good. But if one of them gets hurt, I think that's going to be devastating to our linebacking corps. So I was just curious what y'all's thoughts of on spring practice and what position you are looking for or anything like that.
All right. Well, one other thing. I saw something you tweeted yesterday, Jason, about a rumor about one less quarterback. Do you know something that's happening right now?
I'm hearing that one will be transferring when summer rolls around.
Okay. You don't know who that is yet?
Yeah.
Well, I know this is. I know that you're not going to quote somebody, but your idea of who this person is?
I'm hearing that Austin Allen will be transferring.
Wow. Well, if he's going to transfer, I hope he transfers to Tech, just so that we can have something fun to talk about here on the Sports Blitz in Russellville. All right, Jason, we'll talk about the spring stuff here in just a second. Thank you for the call.
All right, talk to you later.
All right, from spring football, we'll get to it here in just a little bit. We'll wait on that for just a little bit because I think that for expectations for spring, in my opinion, are pretty simple, and I think you and I will probably agree, but I hope we'll have a little bit of disagreement there I'll
try to cook up
just
something.
for the sake of discussion. Let's look real quickly. We didn't get our Peters Family Living local sports look because we talked a little bit about the Hogs and got rolling on that. And since everybody's season's now over in the fall sports that rolled into the spring, not a whole lot to talk about. We got baseball, softball, and soccer that are going on right now. The track season's starting too. So we'll have a little bit of information about those things as the season rolls along. Got some soccer and baseball information from Russellville High School on the site right now. If you want to see more from your school, have your coach, your athletic director, email me, mark@rivervalleyleader.com. But we talked with Old School Baller just a little bit ago. show about the Brightest Stars Banquet. Maddie's got a graphic to show you right now so you can see a little bit more about it. But it's going to be a banquet on May 29th that we're going to be honoring all of the sports in the River Valley, except for just a few that are under-participated. Maybe in the next couple of years, schools can start adding these sports and sort of make it worth having them included in the banquet. But we're going to be giving Players of the Year to 16 different sports. We're going to have Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Assister of the Year, Assistant Coach of the Year. Just some awesome opportunities for some of these kids who don't normally get the appreciation that they deserve. The swimmers and the cross country and the golf and tennis. As long as their coaches will submit names, and I've got them flooding in right now to our service that's taking care of that for us. As long as these coaches will submit players, we'll send out a ballot and we'll have Players of the Year voted on. We're going to give them a nice plaque. We're going to have Aaron Peters from Razorback Nation come MC the event. We're going to have some Italian Gardens, and your tickets are $25. There's only a limited number available because we're giving tickets to each nominee, their parents, and their head coach. So the seats are sort of limited of what we're going to have room for in Russellville High School. And the reason we choose Russellville High School, not because Russellville's going to win all the awards, but because Russellville is in a centrally located area so that you can get the Two Rivers and Danville High School, and you can get Atkins, and you can get Clarksville, and you can get Hector, and you can have everybody kind of come together in the same middle ground there, and everybody's going to have the same opportunity. And I'm seeing as the coaches have nominated players and coaches have nominated other coaches and things like that, that they are appreciative of what the job that other people have done. I'm seeing basketball coaches voting for football coaches as far as Coach of the Year, and I'm seeing coaches from this school vote for a rival school's coach because they appreciate the work that they're doing. So I'm looking forward to a great event, Will.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really fun, and we've said it before. Just a chance to celebrate and get everybody together. You even look at the ESPYs, for instance, or forget about sports, just any awards type setting. Everybody's busy doing their own thing throughout the year. Everybody's coaching their own sport. Everybody's doing their own thing. You don't have a chance to come together very often. Maybe it's like, wow, I really like what the baseball coach at this school does. I don't ever see him, get to talk to him, but now you get to shake his hand and converse a little bit, and just I think it's good for the athletes and the coaches to sort of acknowledge each other. You always want to show off in front of your peers too. It's just natural. So this is going to give everybody an opportunity to do that. And you get a chance to see it. You get a chance to be a part of it. Mark, you've already said Italian Garden, certainly a high-quality meal, $25 ticket to be a part of a wonderful evening. Well worth it.
To me, as if I were, and I'm about to be a parent May 1st, but if the time comes and my son has the opportunity to be nominated, man, I can only imagine how much pride it would give me to sit there in that audience and see, even if he's playing golf or he's running cross country or doing something like that, they don't get soccer. They don't get a lot of love a lot of times. The basketball and football kids, they get a lot of attention. Yeah. They get the scholarships and they get this high profile stuff. They get their news out there in the news sources. And, I've got a friend who's a swimming coach, and he's told me before he can write it up, hand it to news sources, and they just won't find space for it because it's swimming. And so to me, to be able to be on even footing for the swimming and cross country and golf and have the chance to get an award or at least be acknowledged right there before your peers in every sport, I think it's just going to be a really, really cool thing. So I'm looking forward to the event. I am getting a little stressed out about it because there's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts to it, but it's going to be well worth it to reward these great players and coaches in the area. Looking forward to good news coming from that. But let's move on to the wire. We've got some topics that we need to hit. We talked Wednesday about the craziness of NFL free agency, and day one was pretty good. Day two was really, really good as well. You saw the Denver Broncos on day one load up. They got T.J. Ward. They got Aqib Talib. They got DeMarcus Ware. And then yesterday, the New England Patriots sort of answered back, didn't they?
They did. Darrelle Revis, a 1-year, $12 million deal. We wondered where Revis would be going. He could take his talents to Oakland and have that huge payday. Cleveland was out there, but he went with New England for a little bit less money, obviously putting himself right in the thick of the championship race. And I'm excited for Darrelle Revis because in terms of overall skill set, and I know he's got to show he's really back from his knee, I still want to acknowledge him as the best. I know Sherman, and he had his little deal with D'Angelo Hall on Twitter. We know about that. But if I can get a healthy Revis, and I don't know if I can get him, but if I can, I still have him as a top dog. It's just he's just done too much and shut down too many people for me just to forget about him. But, he's got to show he's back from that injury. They signed Brandon Browner. He was part of the Legion of Boom in Seattle. He's the one that, as Stephen A. Smith says, he just could not stay off the weed. But he's a heck of a player, and they got him for a relatively low cost. So New England's loading up. Denver's loading up. Top dogs in the AFC.
Yeah, to me, right now it doesn't look like anybody else is even close to those two. Because if you're Denver, you've got Peyton Manning coming back with those weapons. It looks like Eric Decker's going to go someplace else. But now, whoop-de-doo. Yeah, he's one of those. I know he's more talented, but he's kind of a Brandon Stokely. He was nothing before, he'll be nothing after, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because Peyton Manning made him. Caldwell will step up and do good things. You've still got all the other weapons that you had: Wes Welker and Demaryius Thomas and Julius Thomas, and you're not going to miss Eric Decker that much. But
no.
New England loads up as well. It's just like they're saying, all right, well, you got all these guys, we're going to get all these guys, and when they play, it's going to be, instead of 31-28, it's going to be 14-13 if these two defenses have anything to say about it. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to good football next year. Looks like let's just run through some of the news here on ESPN.com as far as the NFL free agent tracker goes. Vince Wilfork wants a release from the New England Patriots. The Carolina Panthers cut perhaps their best wide receiver ever, Steve Smith. His act wore thin, I guess, a little bit on the organization, and they have cut him. The Eagles got Darren Sproles. We talked about him on Wednesday. Saints cut him actually traded him to the Philadelphia Eagles after they talked about cutting him, and they decided, lots of people want him. Maybe we can get something for him. Right. Justin Tuck going to the Raiders. The Cincinnati Bengals cut James Harrison, and the Cowboys got rid of Jason Hatcher. The Redskins picked him up as well. So the Redskins, man, doing a lot of work on defense.
Yeah, seen that before. The Redskins are signing people. Look.
You got to tell before you get to that, you got to tell your point that I liked and that I never heard the other day about signing old players.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a quick road to disaster and running your franchise in the ground, sign a bunch of people right through. Now, look, when you sign a player, and what is a free agent? When does a guy become a free agent? There's normally something wrong with him. Either his name is bigger than his production due to age, or he's got some type of issue in which he's a malcontent, or he's coming off injury. There's a reason why he's a free agent, even though they're really good players. And what teams do is they'll sign these, we're getting DeMarcus Ware. One of the best defensive players in our generation, DeMarcus Ware. Yeah, DeMarcus Ware hadn't played a whole lot lately. You know what? Jason Hatcher is the reason why Jason Hatcher was the man in Dallas, even though the defense was bad. Because DeMarcus Ware, as Skip Bayless liked to say, was DeMarcus Where. DeMarcus, where is he?
I like it.
You know how Skip is. But you've got to be careful signing these big names. You've got to make sure the production matches. You got to make sure it's a good fit. Mike Wallace last year. You got to pay Mike Wallace. What's Mike Wallace doing? He's like another guy in Miami making big money. You just have to be careful with it. I want to say something though about Eric Decker, going back to him real quick. The Jets are paying him number 2-ish money, but they're hoping to get number 1 production. I just don't see it coming. I like what Detroit did with Golden Tate, because Golden Tate took less money than Eric Decker. And in terms of playing alongside a superstar receiver, I'd rather have Golden Tate because he makes tough catches. So you got Calvin being dynamic all over the place. You got Golden Tate to catch those crossers, catch those 3rd and 4 short passes where he's going to get hit immediately. I like that for Detroit.
It tells you how much I care about Eric Decker. I didn't know where he signed. All these other signees, and he's out of sight, out of mind to me. Jason just tweeted me and said he's excited about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He said they might be a playoff team. They got Josh McCown, who he was hot with the Bears. Of course, it's not hard to just throw it as high and far as you can to Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall, and that seems to be what they did a lot of at the end of that season there. But he said they got a new quarterback, new defensive end, cornerback, an offensive tackle. All good additions to this team. He wants them to get Sammy Watkins to help Vincent Jackson.
Sammy Watkins would help. When we talk about Tampa Bay, you know what we got to talk about? Those ugly uniforms. uniforms. Lord have mercy.
Those are bad.
Okay, first of all, you don't just throw orange and black and red together like that. And then you've seen the numbers. The numbers look like a digital clock from the 1980s, like a digital alarm clock type numbers where you like a space in between each notch and with the numbering. It looks horrible. Then they have that big ugly flag on the side of the helmet, which is the same logo pretty much, but they just blew it up 2 or 3 times bigger. Those uniforms are ugly. That's all I got to say on Tampa Bay.
Wow.
You know it.
You don't get this analysis anywhere else.
You know it.
All right. Let's hit a break. We've got a little bit left. Maybe we can talk in this final segment before we get to spring football about what Steve Nash had to say. It's our CrossFit Russellville poll question. He was really honest. They asked him. He only played 10 games out of 82 this year. He's been shut down for the rest of the season. And they asked, some media member asked him, I think it was USA Today, are you going to retire? He said no. And they said, why not? And he said, because I want the money. $9.7 million. And he said, I'm not retiring because I want the money. We asked, do you have a problem with that? With him not retiring just because he wants the money, even though chances are he's not going to be able to contribute. We'll talk about that in Hog Spring Football in our final segment.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Last 10 plus minutes of the Sports Blitz. We thank you for joining us today. We've rambled on quite a bit today about the latest in sports in the state, national, and even local levels. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lassiter inside the Cogswell Motors studios. Today's CrossFit Russellville poll question before we get to Arkansas spring football starting Sunday is about Steve Nash. And it may be a breath of fresh air to some folks, and it sort of rubbed me the wrong way what he had to say. I think Weldon's on the other side of it, so that's good. And I can understand kind of where Steve Nash is coming from. But he is asked in an interview, okay, Steve Nash, 40 years old, has played 10 games this year, just barely any at all. $9.7 million due next year. If I'm him, I probably am not in the least bit worried about getting my money and being done with it, because Kobe Bryant's making a dump truck load himself, and he's not taking anything less to let the team be any better. So USA Today asks Steve Nash, are you going to retire? He says no. And they said, why? And he says, well, honestly, because I want the money. Do you have a problem with that? I wondered if anybody else kind of heard that and thought, man, Really? All these years you play, and then you're going to hang on at the end and not retire when you're not going to help the team at all just because you want that money. But $9.7 million is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Man, what do you think about him saying this?
Love it. Had no problem whatsoever. Look, couple of things. And look, I get where you're coming from. It is sort of a spoiling type feeling if you're a fan. Kind of sours you the wrong way. I get it. But I'm looking at it from Steve Nash's standpoint. Number one, the Lakers offered him the contract. He signed it. So the Lakers, they went into it agreeing to be responsible for paying him this amount of money for 2 years or however many years. So that's the number one issue. Second of all, Steve Nash is an old player. He's 40 years old. He's on his way out. From his personal interest standpoint, he really does not care about the perception or the league. The league could go under tomorrow or after the season, next season, and Steve Nash has made his money. He's on his way out. So the PC stuff doesn't really matter to Steve whatsoever. And like I said before the show, when has Steve Nash played and not given you his all? If you're one of those players where you watched him throughout his career and he dogged it and he was lazy at times, didn't give max effort, then said something, I would understand. But we all know Steve Nash always laid it on the line, always put his body on the line and different things like that. So it's not like when he's playing, he's holding back or he's trying to cheat you. He was just honest. They asked him a question, he's honest. Look, I'm a practical person. There's a couple of things in the world. There's being ideal and there's being practical. A lot of things sound good in theory. A lot of things sound good ideally. They're not always practical. What Steve Nash said was just the real, honest, practical application of his situation, and I don't have a problem with it.
Look, I want to make this clear because if it were me and I was in that situation, you can have here, Mark. You have these two options. One, you make $9.7 million. Or two, you make zero. I'm taking the 9.7, so I'm not arguing with him doing that. And I just feel like you don't say it. You don't say I want the money. I mean, I guess I should applaud his honesty and say, you know what, good for him to tell the truth rather than to just give the politically correct answer. Good for you telling the truth. But man, I think Weldon's point is well founded that he's just at the end of his rope and as far as the NBA goes, and he doesn't care what anybody says or what anybody thinks. You were talking about your dad, and how sometimes he'll just say stuff to people. He's just like, I don't care. It's just nobody's going to do anything to me. So I like that aspect of it. And on the flip side of this issue, Steve Nash has got the power here. $9.7 million, his option. How many times have you seen players, look at Darren Sproles, come to the end of his career, he's making, I say the end, toward the end, he's making more money than the Saints want to pay him, so they just say, all right, we're going to cut you.
The team will.
They signed him to this contract. They were going to have to give him some money, but they weren't going to have to give him all the money, and they can just get rid of you at any old time. So, on the flip side of that, when they can be so brutal, you can be so brutal as to say, you know what, you signed the contract, idiot. You're the one giving me $9.7 million to sit on the bench. That's your fault.
I'm all about equal opportunity. Just like I'm not mad at Steve Nash, I'm not mad at the Eagles. I know Darren Sproles' wife wrote some article about how mad she was.
Talking about the Saints?
Yeah, mad at the Saints. And she was mad how they treated him. Look, they may have told him, yes, Darren, we're going to cut you, therefore you have a chance to play with anybody you want. But his contract is still their property. If somebody swoops in with an offer of a 5th-round draft pick, it's their right to do it. I'm all for taking advantage of whatever's there. From a player, if it's advantageous to you, you better go ahead and do it. You know why? Because when the team's through with you, guess what? They're gonna cut you unapologetically. It's really harsh. It sounds harsh, but it's really nothing wrong with it. You're following the guidelines of the contract. If your contract is broken, here's what happens by party A or party B. It sounds tough, but it's really just following the natural laws of the deal.
So I guess we're both on the same side now. You've talked me over. No, I just don't say it, Steve. I know where he wants to just give him a middle finger, basically, and say, you know what? I'm stuck here in this crap hole with this terrible team, and I'm hurt, and Kobe's taking all this money and talking trash about everyone, and Phil's going over here, and the organization's going in the crapper, and I'll just say what I want. So I guess I should. Hats off to Steve Nash. All right, let's look at the Hogs football going into spring practice starting on Sunday. Jason asked about it. Asked about our expectations. I've got a couple things that I want to see out of spring. For one, you're not going to be able to tell a whole lot. You'll hear some some numbers about size and weight and speed and these types of things. I think some spring practices are actually open. I'm not going to make any trips to Fayetteville, but there'll be chances for the media to get in and watch and be a part of the practice. But I want to see a couple of things. One, I want to see, some of these guys who needed to put on good weight last year, red shirt. I want to see them put on that weight and, maybe see a before and after. I remember seeing a picture of Malcolm Shepard when he got here, when the strength coaches got a hold of him. Guys like Hero Small and Bray Cook. You see those pictures of them, the before and after. I'd like to see some positive before and afters from some of these guys. And then this spring, please, Jesus, help the linebackers and safeties. Please help the back seven of this defense step up to be better. They're going to have to be better than anybody ever expected them to be and could have possibly hoped for Arkansas to make much of an improvement. My meager expectations are saying, please get to 500.
Yeah, and really, my meager expectations are, when Jason first asked us that question, my first thought was, I don't really care. That was my first thought because, they're young, they're building, they're not really going anywhere. But you look at in the off season, what was really the eye-catching thing? What was really the important thing of the off season in Arkansas? And I think it became the coaching staff. I think the coaching staff became the dominant issue, and so that's probably what I'm looking at. I know, and I agree. The back seven, Lord, help them. I don't want to see them get better. I agree 100% on that. But I'm looking at the coaching staff because you had what I would call some unexpected shakeup. You didn't expect to lose Chris Ash, but you did. There's some other staff shakeups. Taylor Johnson's gone. Rob Smith is in. You don't know much about Rob Smith, so there's been some shakeup there. I want to see how that goes. Rob Smith talked about running his over front defense. I want to see how he puts that in place. I want to see their ability to stop the run. I want to see just his approach and his philosophy. It's spring. It's going to be vanilla. I'm not expecting to see exotic blitzes, but I guess the chemistry and the mesh of the coaching staff and how all that's working is something I'm going to try to keep my eye on.
Kind of want to see the quarterback play. Hopefully Brandon Allen, he's always a practice warrior, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean like he looks good in practice. When the bullets aren't flying, he's going to hit people. He's just going to be nearly 100% passing. I'd love to see him, bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic, and just healthy for the year. And it's going to be interesting to see who steps in to fill the wide receiver roles. Who's going to be dropping passes for him this year? I don't know who that's going to be yet. JoJo Robinson's not going to be here yet. I'm pretty sure he's going to be in here in the summer. So spring practice, you're going to get to see some guys who've been behind some folks for a couple years. You're going to get to see some guys who had been injured and didn't get to play last year. A guy like Demetrius Wilson, is that his name?
Receiver.
Yeah. See, I'm too far out of practice here in March. But guys like that who didn't get to play last year, coming back from injury, let's see where they are and see if they're going to be able to help the team. So there are some interesting things. Of course, like you said, sometimes it's one of those who cares types things because you're not playing anybody. This stuff doesn't matter at all. And I remember a couple of years ago, Arkansas comes out and everybody runs a 4.2 40. You remember? It was just like 4.25 40 for everyone. Really? And then the team came out and they weren't that good. So
it's like one of those things where like, hey, it's a Bobby Petrino spring game. 500 yards passing. Yay. Oh, yeah, the defense kind of stood there the whole time. But you know what? They racked up 500 yards. Good for them. So, spring football is going to be, I will keep up with it. I'll watch the game and I'll analyze it the way we normally do. But, there's a lot that you want to see this fall in terms of, I want to see the progress when it really counts. Do want to give a shout-out, Mark, to the baseball team opening up SEC play today in Gainesville against the Gators. Tough West Coast trip for the Hogs out in Northern California. Hopefully they can bounce back. Jalen Beeks leading that pitching staff. So the Hogs need to score some runs.
Yeah. Pitching staff in the last couple of years has been really good, so they've got to pick up some runs somehow. Let's give some congratulations where it's due right now. As we close up shop, state championship basketball this weekend in Hot Springs. The Malvern girls won 4A. The Brooklyn boys beat Lone Oak and won 4A. That home court advantage just goes away when you go to Hot Springs if you're Lone Oak. So Brooklyn wins the 4A boys, and the Conway girls beat Northside, Fort Smith Northside, a team that's everybody and their mama was picking to win that championship, and Conway held on and won that one. And then North Little Rock boys beat Springdale to win the 7A boys. You got some more action over the weekend. Unfortunately, for the first time in 3 years, you don't have a local team in the state championship games. But congratulations to those who won and those who will win this weekend. And hopefully, we see some next couple of years. We see some of these teams resurge back into the title contention. So,
and they'll be back. When you got the schedule? When's that Class 5A game, the boys? I'm sure people want to know that one.
I just
you got it
closed
up.
I think they play. I don't even want to say when I think they play. I'm not positive. I'll have to look real quick.
Well, yeah. Jimmy, Forest City and Jacksonville. I mean, you can look at the AAA site and get it at home. But I mean, that's one of the notable ones I know hadn't been played yet. Obviously,
5A boys play today at 3:30.
3:30. So you'll see people there. Jacksonville's always loaded with talent. Trey Thompson, Forest City. So and they've got some pretty good players too on that team. So I'm sure people will tune into that one if they can.
Golly, the rest of the games today are terrible. Aside from that one. I'll just be honest with you. I'm not going to say who they are because maybe somebody from that place listening, but 3A girls, 1A boys, 1A girls. Who wants to watch those games? All right, Saturday's going to be good games too, though. So if you're going out there to Hot Springs, you watch that first game, 3:30 today, Forest City, Jacksonville. You catch the rest of them as well. So, all right, we got to get out of here. That's all the time we've got for the week. We'll be back on Monday for Weldon and Maddie. I'm Mark saying so long. We'll see you at 11 o'clock, rivervalleyleader.com on Monday.